Hey Ryan, recording is in progress.
Are you
Cheers.
telling me or your husband?
Yeah, I'm sorry. He literally like clomped into the kitchen and was like, "What? Oh, sorry." But also, hey Brian, we're also
Hi, hi.
we're
I don't have a Ryan in the other room, just to clarify to everyone. So Lindsay's the
everyone
lucky
should
one.
though. Tied
Everyone
and
should.
Jack.
Yes, yes. That's what I'm saying. Everyone should. You are the lucky one,
Good Lord.
at least in this environment.
Yeah, right now he's on kid duty. I have a sick child. I hope that she's cool up there. But yay, we're here. It's Daggercast.
Uh-huh.
Woohoo. I am one half of host, Lindsay Charles, and that is Brian Kirst. You're over here to me. I don't
Can I
know
be
if
a
you're over.
whole host though? I don't want to
No.
be a half host.
We're half we're us together become one mega
Okay,
host.
all right. That
Um
works.
that's kind of what I was going for. I
That
feel
works.
like
All right.
you're my better half here. In Daggercast.
That.
Also, FYI, shout out to our production manager Jared's birthday today,
Right.
or not today, yesterday. Was it yesterday?
It was
Whatever.
yesterday. It was yesterday. He's not in the grandpa club yet, like me, but
Aw,
close. No, I
but
am.
really, you're in
Well,
the.
I mean, I don't have grandkids, but I'm at that age.
I guess
All
you're
my
right. I
all my
mean,
cousins who are my age and younger, my dad and my grandfather twice over. So yeah, so I'm becoming I'm getting the grumpiness.
yeah. Well,
I don't have I don't have the little ones to deal with, but the grumpiness is
you certainly don't look it or act it. And also, I guess I don't know. You could also be like, I could be a grandma if my kids had early children, and if I started having them earlier, I don't know.
yeah. If you had early children and they had
all
early children,
yeah, babies making babies. Like, yeah, it's all relative.
it's
Anyway,
like Diddy. It's a cycle.
yeah, exactly. And us now, trending is having your babies way later. So, who
Yeah.
knows what grandpa age is going to be in the future? It's going to be like 70. Like, you'll only start to become a grandpa or grandma like when you're like 70 years old because your kid like also waited until they were 30 plus. Um, anyway, speaking of just no children, let's just like let's have fun and not think about sick kids upstairs. And I would like to happily introduce one of my very, very closest friends. Just recently, I went back to Bloomington, Indiana, and went down the street that this lady lived on. Person, good lord. But it was a wash with memories. Sarah Yeazel is literally one of my favorite people, best friends. Opened my eyes to many a horror movie, many a weird movie. I remember one time I called them when I had just gotten done. We were living together, and I had just gotten done watching Mulholland Drive by myself, and called them and was like, "I'm very terrified right now." And they were like, "Why did you do that? Why did you watch Mulholland Drive by yourself?" And I always think about that whenever I watch a movie that is a little too disturbing that I've been watching alone. So they're always in my mind. They are a wonderful Mountain Dew connoisseur. Um, they keep me apprised of all of the different flavors. It is extremely important research that they do, and I am happy that this person is in my life and willing to talk to us about horror shit. So it's Sarah Yeazel. Bring her in. Bring her in.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. I wish I were doing the do right now, but I
Sarah, I just want to confirm though, you don't have a Ryan in the kitchen either, correct?
no,
All right, all
no,
right. So I don't feel so alone.
no. I have no. My Ryan is across town.
He keeps
Okay.
peeking. He keeps peeking over like somebody's like calling for him, and I'm
I
like,
think he should make a guest appearance.
he will someday.
All right.
Remember, we told him he was too white and male to be too cisgendered white male to be on our show.
Yeah.
But he does have some.
He should do the going down the stairs behind you.
Yeah.
We should literally have him on as like a sound effects guy. Like he just does like aruga, like
comes finally on that police academy treatment.
People get cast in shows just to do like sound effects. Like that's like a block box theater thing here in Chicago.
That's
who are you playing? I'm sound effects.
Ryan's
stage with the xylophone.
the best noise that Ryan makes is when he farts. It sounds like a Burt Bacharach trumpet.
Shit.
Yeah, it's like burp, 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 burp. Like it's really.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's kind of terrifying, and to a point though that I've been like, hey in-laws, do you know that your son farts like a Burt Bacharach trumpet? And they laugh and try just so hard not to seem scared.
Maybe they were playing Carol Bayer Sager records when he was born. You know, and he just kind of
most likely. Well, anywho, Sarah, how's your Pride Month been? What you been doing?
Oh my gosh, what haven't I been doing? Really, I've been really hot a lot with the 2 heat waves. Pride's going good. You know, I've been running my works employee resource program for the LGBTQ community. So really, you know, priding it up at work.
Awesome.
Watching a lot of All-Star 7, and every week I'm like, and Raj is not winning. Okay, this week Raj is still not gonna get. Okay, so Raj is winning it every week. Every week, Lindsay, or you guys follow me on Instagram, where every week at some point on Friday night, my Insta stories are just shit posting Raja. Like, you know, All-Star 7 is, I've watched it because it's 30 posts about Raja.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw All-Stars come out, I think I was pretty much like, well, Raja wins.
Raja wins.
Who the hell else is there? Honestly,
I will say a Shea Coulee or a Jinx. I will entertain.
Literally the only 2 though, and they would be in the top 3.
Yeah,
but Raja wins. Like
but
that
Raja
was
wins it.
That was my first, and it was almost like, well, I don't really need to see this because it's going to be that they're going to be top 3, and then Raja will win.
Then Raja wins. Thank you. Yeah, that's the every week I made it last week where there's that Simpsons episode where they go to Australia and she asks for coffee and she's like, coffee, and the guy goes, yeah. Like, that's me every week. Like,
Raja.
The Vivian, I'm like, Raja.
Amazing.
Get my head around it. Like, she's not got all the stars.
Yeah.
But this makes a design challenge, so it's good.
Well, thank goodness. Good Lord. Have you, I don't know, what's the, not necessarily tying this into LGBTQ, but like what horror movies have been just floating your boat recently?
Well, my. If there's one horror movie recently that has really floated my boat, it's Mad God. It's Mad God.
Yep.
It went Friday, or I'm sorry, so it dropped last week on Shudder, and so I could not shut up about it. For like, it popped up on my Instagram. I was like, I just want to see it so bad. So finally Shudder got it. The Music Box has it. I'm trying to figure out if I can get to it and see it, because I'm also like, it's hot middle-aged summer, so is a movie at 11:59 at night gonna happen? But they're gonna have it for like a week, so I'm like, yeah. But my girlfriend has a bigger TV than I do. I was like, we should watch this on your TV. And it was one of those things where, like, it's rare that I'm like, we are putting our phones over here. I rarely am like, whatever. Like, you know, you watch a movie, you're like, I gotta look at the IMDb.
Yeah, just like, I guess let's run some backstory on this. It is from the mind of Phil Tippett, who did he won
Return, or Empire Strikes Back,
Jurassic Park.
Didn't he get an Oscar for Jurassic Park?
I think he got 2. I think he might have gotten 2 Oscars, for one for Jurassic Park and one for one of the Star Wars.
Yeah.
But it is literally just all pretty much stop motion animation. It is apparently
30 years to make.
Yeah, he did this for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it is absolutely utterly mind-blowing.
It's one of the 3 minutes in, I just went, wow. Like, just, it starts with this like long descent into this world in the diving bell. And I could watch the descent. I could have watched that for another hour. I think it's like 90 minutes. I could have watched an entire hour of the little assassin just going down into the different layers of this world. And it's such, he's so talented, because there were the parts that had like the humans in it, and I'd be like, nope, that's not stop motion. Like, I was like, no, that's a person. That's a person.
Yeah, it reminded me of who was that? That was it a Czechoslovakian artist? Alice? That one, like that Alice in Wonderland retelling that was like crazy stop motion animation. I think it was like a Criterion, because it was just so like ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that. There's also like a bunch of shorts that guy has done that I see every now and again that I'm like, whoa. But yeah, it's like that, but it's just so overwhelmingly huge.
Yes.
Like the scope of what he has done, the sizes were crazy. Like the assassin would be really small and there'd be this like gigantic thing.
Yeah.
I've never felt such like empathy with creatures, I guess.
Yeah. There's the part where they take him to, for a lack of better word, hospital. Some sort of medical-ish center.
Slash hostel. It reminded me a lot of it made me think of Hostel.
Hostel hospital. The hospital. It's there. It'll, you know what? In 2 hours, I'm gonna just like yell it, and it'll be too late, and it'll be depressing.
Just send it. Send it when you're done.
I'll text and be like, edit it in. But where they like cut him open and just start, there's like jewels and books and all of these things wrapped in the guts of this person, and pull out that tooth thing. The witch with the plague mask, the way it moved, the way the story it brought with the like
the glitter, like all that weird
bricks into the glitter, and creating new universes, and watching this kind of story play out in different worlds again. Like, it's just the baby noises of the leader of that world were very upsetting.
It made we almost had to like turn it down, and then also initially we were like, oh no, Olive's awake. Like, it was literally like oh shit,
chill of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, at what age do I show Olive Mad God? I'm wondering. When do I do that?
But like everything in that hospital scene, I couldn't get enough of. I think it was both the artistry of it, of like the bandages, the visuals with just eyeballs alone, like just that alone is gorgeous.
Dude, and eyeballs have become such a thing, like such a just a thing in the world. Pretty much every special effect in the new Doctor Strange film was eyeballs.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, it was just nothing but like, third eye, and then it was like, like
and then the orb comes out and you're like, why? Go fight Ghost Rider like you're supposed to.
Exactly. Or then it was like, Scarlet Witch would come out and her eyes would just be like red. Like, then it would just be like eyes. And it's kind of funny that like, that's kind of like it's like a horror trope that I don't necessarily like. It's not good on its own, but when you know how to use it,
yes,
it's fully terrifying. Like, even
like really empathy drawing. Cause like when it would go to his eye in that scene, you're like you're unnerved in a way that's more rooted in empathy than like what's coming next. Like, I was like, oh God, what's like, I'm concerned in a way that I would be for an antagonist. I'm not scared of the eye. I don't know the way eyes work, but that one specifically was much more like got a very human emotion.
Yeah, well, and also the fact that, you're watching somebody perform surgery on someone and you're like, well, that person's not anesthetized.
That person's having a good day.
That person is feeling all of that, actually.
Yeah, and just like watching the eye, like look for what's next. And it's very much mimicking you as well, where you're paranoid about what's next as well.
And then also the baby that they, sorry, spoiler alert, the baby that comes out of there looks like Eraserhead, 100% Eraserhead. Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian. We're literally just talking about Mad God like a crazy people because I'm honestly like all I could do is think about it today. Mm-hmm. Even Ryan was like, we have to watch that again. I'm like, mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, Brian. I feel like you have not watched this movie.
And we're like, we're going to sprinkle all the spoilers on you. So sorry.
It's not even. It's such a visual. It's so visually wonderful. And really, like, people online are trying so hard to figure out what the plot is. And honestly, who cares? Like,
I definitely had to like make myself shut that part off of my brain because like it sucks. Like I have a degree in English and like just constantly being trained to like deconstruct. I was like, you just gotta take this in. Like shut up. Like just...
Yeah. It was literally like everything. There were many points in the movie where I was like just watching and going, like, because if I were seeing it in real life, I think I would have been physically ill. But there were some really wild moments in that movie. Well, yeah.
I remember at the end, I just like sat there for a moment and I was like I had this feeling of like almost gratitude. Like if I'm so glad that I get to exist in the timeline where like Mad God exists. Where I was like, I'm glad that I get to see this. This is so incredible.
And I think why I brought up Mulholland Drive in my intro is because it reminded me of that. Because you were literally like, hey, Lindsay, have you seen Mad God? And I was like, oh, I guess I'll pop it on. And then even with my husband in the room with me, I was like, like I almost called you and was like, I saw it. And why did I watch that at night before I go to bed? I don't know. Like, it really made me a kid again. Made me feel like the way that a horror, like the way The Exorcist made me feel.
Yeah, it felt like you found that you found that thing at the video store, right? Where like you've been going through and you've been watching stuff and it's hitting right, but then you find that like a Mulholland Drive, like a Hellraiser, where you're like, this is new and has hit me different. Like it felt like being like 14 again and finally getting able to rent like cool shit from the horror section.
Right. Okay, Brian, I'm gonna throw it to you because you've been so quiet and so patient with us. What was the first movie that gave you that? Like gave you almost like you watched it and you needed to say thank you?
I don't know if I've experienced that yet.
Oh, interesting.
I definitely am grateful, which I think will bring us back around to some other of Sarah's obsessions, cinematic obsessions. Grateful to like characters in films. I think I mentioned before, growing up in a small town, gay kid, like characters like Laurie in Halloween and Chris in Friday the 13th Part 3, and even Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Really were important to me. Maybe Wizard of Oz. That really inspired me when I was 4. It's funny how your gay hatred comes into play. Once I got to college and I learned that liking Judy Garland was like a gay thing, and that's
like a stereotype.
Yeah, and you don't want to be stereotyped. You want to be your own person. So I probably haven't watched The Wizard of Oz. I picked it up for cheap many moons ago on DVD, like at a Best Buy sale, but I haven't watched it in years. And I keep on going, you need to like reacquaint yourself with this again and kind of get over that kind of block, So,
well, I remember being pretty young, and that's always the movie that like my mom and grandma we could all agree on, and it was like I remember being young and being actually legitimately afraid of the monkeys. not being ready for that part when it came. I remember but I do remember it being like, whoa, they did this with film? Like, to me, it just seemed almost like the most, I mean, it's such a Hollywood movie because they tried a bunch of new things. They did a bunch, these are all just sets. But they really did make it actually look like a world. And they stuck pretty close to it, and nothing really, Oz, really, there was nothing like it, I guess. I thought that was really smart. I don't know. To me, Wizard of Oz is kind of like the first fantasy film that the mainstream people gobbled up. Or horror, I get it. I mean, I don't know if I would call it horror, but definitely I don't know.
It's adjacent.
Karen Black, I'd be like, well, it's a little fantasy.
It's a science fantasy.
It's a science fantasy.
Science fantasy. Lindsay.
I'm not in any horror films. I'm in science fantasy films.
Life so sweet. Science fantasy. Karen Black.
Oh,
Karen. But there's so many great women, horror people out there.
Yes, Sarah. Brian has been wanting to talk to you about your psychobiddy obsession.
Yes. And Kathy Bates. I did a thing on West Side
enthusiast.
Yes. Well, I thought of you many moons, a few months ago. I found a copy for $1 of West Side Waltz, which is the television film she did with Shirley MacLaine, Liza Minnelli, Jennifer Grey, and Kathy Bates. Talk about Gayland.
What?
So I wrote about that. It's based on a popular, Broadway play. And so I wrote about it, and I thought about you, Sarah. But there are so many degrees of Kathy Bates. But obviously, I mentioned Misery, so I think we need to revel in.
I don't think I've seen that since Back to the Video Store. Remember at the video store where they had the before IMDb, where they had the giant book, and you could look up different directors, and there was a phone book basically. And so when I discovered Kathy Bates, I'd just be like, what's next? I think then that was definitely one of them, Used People. I just really went through it. Yeah, with Psycho Biddy, I saw, I thought of you because whoever slew Auntie Roo is on Prime. And I was like, my God, nice. There's that little kid that looks like Dave Foley.
Yeah.
He does. It's a little Dave Foley child. Yes. God.
Shelley Winters.
Really just really out here making magic with that and What's the Matter with Helen?
Which has lesbian overtones by
I did this presentation about stereotypes with our ERG, and I was mad because my boss was like, you can't use Basic Instinct as an example of biphobia. And I was like, but why? And then, but why? I was like, there's nothing in the HR, there's nothing in the rule book from work. There's nothing from HR. It's never been explicitly said. And so instead I was like, fine, I'll just use What's the Matter with Helen. She was like, no one knows what that is. I was like, well, everyone knows Basic Instinct, so you did this to yourself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, biphobia kind of popped up recently in my world. Oh yeah, so in Game of Thrones, one of the girl who plays Arya was like, oh, I always thought she was queer. And I had to guffaw because I'm like, first of all, I hate when people say oh, I think that this character was queer, but there was never a single moment in the show where you even thought that.
Sure.
Because I'm like, put it in it. If you think that they're queer, why don't you put it in the thing? But it was also funny. I wanted to write poor Maisie Williams and say, hey girl, they were all bi. They all slept with everybody. It was Game of Thrones. They all slept with everybody. Nobody cared. It was George R.R. Martin wanted them all to be sex fiends just all the time. So
but they didn't sleep with Debbie Reynolds, and I guess neither did Shelley Winters.
She
really wanted to.
Yeah.
Whatever happened else.
And they never just sat and played the piano like this.
Could you imagine Debbie Reynolds in an interview, like pulling a Lady Gaga and being like, actually, we had a lesbian scene, but they put it on the cutting room floor. Like,
I think she would have killed herself, because Shelley Winters was impossible. Like, if you read celebrity memoirs, she was in a relationship with Farley Granger, who was bisexual, and they were together for a while and did a couple movies together. And he said she was absolutely insane to work with, just uncontrollable, unpredictable. Like you really had to love her, which he did, in order to put up with it. And in one of her books, Debbie Reynolds talks about just how insane she was on set, and was always referencing her Oscar wins. Like, whenever someone wanted her to do something that she didn't want to do, she would be like, well, Mr. Oscar says I shouldn't. But they said
she had that necklace that was like, I'm the diving champion.
Yeah. But yeah, Debbie Reynolds was pure Hollywood, so she had special lights, and she had, she was concerned about how she looked, and Shelley Winter spent the whole time bitching, like not learning her line, not like literally not doing what the director told her to, but not blaming herself for her bad behavior on the set of that movie, but saying that it was all because Debbie Reynolds, spent too much time wanting to be pretty. So as a joke at the end of this ordeal, Debbie presented her with her own, like, all the equipment that she had to make herself look pretty. She bought it for Shelley Winters for her next project. But can you imagine? Because they did the characters in that film have such a tight relationship. They're running a school together. For all of you out there who haven't watched it but need to, Shelley Winters becomes obsessed, romantically with Debbie Reynolds' character, and mayhem ensues. And
who among us, though? Who hasn't?
Yeah, but that is, as you said, you use that character as like a bad representation of lesbians in
like
film.
The psycho lesbian. Yeah. Because what I ended up using I used the most important movie ever made about friendship, Single White Female.
Yeah, I was about to throw it out.
Petty. Because, that was such a huge thing in the 90s, right? Like, it was like Single White Female, Basic Instinct, all of the like, remember Jade? Like, all
Jade. Dude, Jade. The cover of the cover of that video is completely the hand on the butt, just one hand on the butt. Like, that video is ingrained in my memory because I was a child, like, looking through things, and it was this hand on the butt, like
the butt, all green and black. It was just like, and then like when I finally watched, I was like, we are a society that made Jade.
We live in a society.
We live in a society, and we put Jade in it. Like, and then it was like, maybe you can introduce me to Jade sometime. And it's like, why did this happen? But yeah, like, that was such a huge thing in that, like, the, like, the erotic thrillers of the 90s.
Hey, showgirls, my God. Like,
I'm sorry, we are not ever going to disparage showgirls.
We should not. I'm not discouraging it. I'm just saying, Paul Verhoeven was over here making
Verhoeven was like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a Total Recall. We're gonna do a RoboCop, and we're gonna do a Showgirls.
Have you seen his new one, the Benedetta or what?
No,
I haven't either. One of my friends saw it, and she said it was very horny. So I'm like, Verhoeven.
Verhoeven. You mean the man who brought us 3 boobs? The thing that you remembered about Total Recall when you were like 9? Like, the one with 3 boobs. Like, yeah. But it was such a huge, like, crazy bi woman trope of like that, or like crazy lesbian, where like, just get them in there. I'm sure, I haven't seen it in years. I'm sure Poison Ivy has it. Like,
most likely.
Oh, I think that, like, yeah, because it's like the Sarah Gilbert character, if I remember right. He's all like in love with Drew Barrymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's always there. It's always there.
Weird how many of those sexy 70s and 80s and 90s films, but American Gigolo has a huge gay, only male kind of subtext. And it's the gay men who are the psychos. There's not to spoil it, Richard Gere's character who's romancing all the pretty ladies who starred on Broadway in the 50s and 60s, getting their little movie debut. And he gets set up for murder, and it turns out his pimp is gay, and his lover is the one who accidentally killed the person in question. So they set up Richard Gere so the lover doesn't get away. But it's like, so you're excited. Hey, they have, especially in those days, that was like the late, I think it's 78, 79, maybe 80. You're excited. You're titillated by the fact as a young gay man, hey, at least they have the homosexuality in there, but it's bad. It's bad. They're black, they're killers and, underhanded and, so not only does society at that point in time think homosexuality and lesbianism and whatever is wrong, we're also proving to them that we're perverted and criminal and in the film. So
and I also hate, like, because that in the 90s, like, it's so funny to me that we did have these just like crazy, like, it was almost like their homosexuality was what made them deranged. Like, it's so old. It's such an old thought. And yet in the 90s, it was like a sexy thought. And so they were like, this is how we sell the movie. Dudes are going to like it because the girls are going to be wanting the girls, like, and then they're like, but they're also crazy. So then it's like, we don't condone that behavior. Sure. We just want to watch it be hot. Like, and that is so, like, it's such an easy little 90s grab. It's like what we were doing. We were just not really thinking about what that meant. We were just like, hot babes, but also no, they shouldn't be allowed to live. Like, like, it's kind of weird. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's.
I want to go back to though. I'm sorry, Lindsay.
Yeah, please.
I want to go back to a crazy babe who was straight. I would like to talk about how the Kathy Bates phenomenon happened with you, Sarah. I just love that background.
With me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's just
okay. Wow. So it's funny because I sit here and I have a lot of paintings and art on my wall, and one of them is this watercolor print of Kathy. You know what? I'm right here. Let me go get it.
Get it. Do it.
While Sarah is doing this, I would like to note that Sarah is not only is she a wonderful writer and great, awesome friend, she's also a really badass visual artist. So please. Well,
this isn't done by me. This is me supporting an Etsy artist. But
ooh. Hey, Zoom, show Kathy.
I think your Hellraiser 2 background is.
God, I love you. Oh my God.
So here's what happened. Here's how it happened. So I grew up just like I just wanted horror all the time, right? Like I don't think that's a foreign feeling on this podcast or to the audience. You just know, like you go to the video store and you see something and you're like, I need it. It's for me, it started with like Scooby-Doo, to the point that my mom tried to get me to read Nancy Drew, and I was like, I don't like it. And she was like, but you like Scooby-Doo. I was like, there are no monsters in this book. This sucks. So it's just this like constant like quest for like, I just want to watch horror movies. And of course, my mom is a huge Stephen King fan. Like she has actually, like, I call her Annie Wilkes at this point because she has a whole shelf that's all the first edition hardbacks from Carrie to now. And so like seeing those as a kid, like damn, I just wanted to read Stephen King. Like she had a whole box of them. This is a long way to get to this story, but it's important. but there was like a whole box of them in the basement, and the one I've been getting rid of books recently because I got an e-reader and like I live in an apartment and I don't have a lot of space. But one that I kept, and it's not necessarily because of the book at all, but the first edition of Cujo. I don't know if you remember the book jacket where it's like it's kind of this like misty tan color, and then there's just like the drooling snout of a Saint Bernard on it. And as a kid, I didn't know what it was, and I would just stare at it. It was like this magic eye for me as a kid until I was like, oh my God, it's a dog snout. And like, I didn't know what a Cujo was, but I was like, a Cujo is a dog. And I've kept it because I have just that memory of being obsessed with that cover. So one day on the playground in 5th grade, we're all trying to circumvent our parents in any kind of way that we can. And one day it was, hey, Misery is going to be on TV. We're all going to figure out how to watch it tonight. Like we all made this like oath that we were going to watch Misery. It's going to be cool. It's a Stephen King movie. We're going to come back to the playground. Like, real like kids become adults kind of moment for us, I guess. And so that night I went to my dad's house where I had a TV in my room. I was like, oh, good. This makes it a lot easier because one, I don't have to like figure out how to watch it, and there's only one TV in the house. And two, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to fool my dad than it is my mom. And so I, lied and said that I had homework to do, and went upstairs and was like, time to watch Misery. And I turned it on, and I need to really like underline this part. It wasn't Annie Wilkes, it was Kathy Bates that I was like, oh, this is why I don't give a shit about Jonathan Taylor Thomas. It was like, oh, hello there. Like, just like you're crazy, but you're cute. Which then as I'm processing that, my dad came up and was like, what are you doing? You can't watch Misery. And I was like, oh, it came on after the news, whatever lie I told him. And then he went away, and then I turned it back on, and I was like, wow, I was like really excited about this horror movie, but like, who's she? And then I joke sometimes about how I got this kind of not backwards, but like took the strangest route, because there are so many like queer women, my age, who are like, oh, Iggy and Ruth in Fried Green Tomatoes, like that, like really, opened my eyes. Blah blah. And I was like, Kathy Bates in that Saran wrap dress, though, like, but y'all, what? Yo, what? Also, I stand by this. That dress would win a maxi challenge on Drag Race. It's got a shawl. It's got a headpiece. Like, it's a whole look. It looks uncomfortable, but
this is a dress she wore in Fried Green Tomatoes, Kathy Bates.
Yeah, there's like a part where, so her character is going to these like self-help classes to like help like spice up her marriage, and like her friend's like, I can't believe we pay for this. Remember when they told us to wrap ourselves in Saran wrap? That was so stupid. And then it flashes back, like, it's like, yeah, that is stupid. It flashes back to her in a Saran wrap dress. Yeah.
Nice.
That was one of the Fried Green Tomatoes was a movie that my mother was literally like, watch Fried Green Tomatoes with me. Like, she would make me like watch it with her.
I don't think anyone was making Sarah watch Fried Green Tomatoes.
No, no one was ever making me. The only time I've only gotten clocked a couple of times on Kathy Bates, and one was during the pandemic. My friend Maggie and I, we always watch SVU together, like the new ones. So during the pandemic, we were like, oh, like we'll FaceTime and watch them together. And so
that sounds like so much fun.
It was a good time. Especially because my Hulu doesn't have commercials and hers did. So it was like a science to like, we got it down for being like 3, 2, 1, and then we'd hit it and it would work.
Oh my gosh.
And so one time we were doing it after, I feel like I'm talking about Drag Race Lab, but it's Pride Team Russia.
Right.
And Titanic had come on. And she was like, what do you do? I was like, I'm watching Titanic. She was like, why? I was like, it was on after Drag Race. I don't know. First of all, worse than you remember it. I don't know if you've watched Titanic recently. It's worse than you remember it. I was like
Mad God, I've never seen it. I've never seen Titanic.
You ever seen Titanic?
Never seen Titanic?
I think I'm okay.
No, you are. You are okay.
You're fine.
It's more of like a, you know, like somebody brings it up, like somebody says, paint me like one of your French girls, and you're either like, what? Or you're like, haha, Titanic. Literally, that's all you're getting.
It's not good. It's not good. That night I said something about, I was like, yeah, I saw this movie because it was like in theaters forever. And when you live in a town of like 9,000 people with one movie theater, that shit was there for like a month and a half. And so Maggie and I grew up in the same town, and I said, yeah, I saw this movie like 9 times. She was like, 9 times? And I was like, yeah. She was like, I'll give you Kathy Bates for the first 3. She was like, I'll give you those. Explain the other 6.
Like you absorbed enough Kathy Bates after 3 watches. At this point, I question.
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't want to be stuck at home on a Friday night. Everyone's going to see Titanic. Like, let's go see Titanic and take a nap or something.
Yeah. I remember seeing Titanic and thinking when the first time I saw it when I was, I don't know, a child, right. I was like, that was pretty good. And then I made my friend go, who hated Leonardo DiCaprio.
Sure.
She was like, like she was just like thinking that we all were idiots for loving this. But the story got her. The story got her hard. And so, like, you know, everybody's sinking in the ship and she is just, I won't let go. She was sobbing. I looked over and I'm like, gotcha. Like, it was, I kind of like, I like movie revenge when somebody walks in hating something and then they come out and they're like, that was really amazing. And I'm like, gotcha.
You did that to me once when we watched Akira. I was like, what's this? Like, I was sitting in Rio, I was like, what is this? You're like, Akira. And I was like, what? And I kind of like dunked on it for a minute, but then I was like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, no, that is like one time I took a bunch of dudes to see Stephen Chow's Shaolin Soccer. And I literally was like, I saw the I was the only one who had seen the trailer. And I was like, guys, I don't know much. I don't know much, but I know. I was like, but I know you're going to love this movie. And there was one guy of my guy friends that were like, we're all going to hate this. This is going to be like 2 hours of pure torture. And Garrett is like, you know, of my friends. And he's like, I don't know, maybe we'll like it. By the end of that movie, everyone was thanking me. In between gasps of laughter, they were going, Lindsay, thank you. And I'm like, that's right. You don't tell me if this thing is good or bad. I know what you like. And that one guy was still the holdout. He hated that even if he like sort of enjoyed himself, he was not going to show me.
Sure.
And I'm not friends with that guy anymore. So it was just so like,
because he's a liar.
Yeah. No,
I had a good time.
No, I bet he like sucked it in the whole, and then he got home and was like, ha, 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 like just like
all that laughter probably was in the bathroom for 5 minutes.
Just exploded,
chuckling and hee-hawing and
wiping the tears away.
Yeah. Kathy Bates was on pop singer Kelly. Oh my God, the big pop singer. She's got a talk show now.
Kelly Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson. Yeah. Like, so Kelly Clarkson's like a huge fan and is going on. You know, has Kathy Bates on and is rattling off her credits and doing all this thing and you know about how much she meant to the world as an actress. And I was like, you're missing something, Kelly. You know, Kathy is like the provocateur. She's the coming out queen. She's bringing those lesbian girls out of the closet, and you didn't hit on it. I was like,
didn't hit on it.
You missed a golden opportunity, you know.
It's so funny where it's just like I've had this crush described as just like it's just so pure. I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, that's it. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I had pictures of her in my locker. Like,
I love that so much.
Kathy Bates in my locker. Like, she was fucking Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, this is her at the Oscars. Like, just like, also sometimes I joke where I'm like, it's not necessarily the crush on Kathy Bates that really should have given it away to my parents. It's that like, I knew who Kathy Bates and all these character actresses were at like 9. Like, just
that is true. Like, yeah, there were a lot of I almost feel like there were a lot of steps you had to take, and I feel like maybe the Kathy Bates was like the nail in the coffin.
Nail in the coffin. I was like, you guys should have known like a lot earlier. Where it was just like, I'm watching Dolores Claiborne and it's fine and it's not weird.
It's what is amazing is so many of those character actresses. There's a book that came out in the 70s, which is kind of offensive. The author, his whole point is to get these women who were working through the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s to admit their gayness. And he pushes that a little too much. It's a fascinating book. Like, he's got Dame Judith Anderson and all the character actresses from the 40s and 50s. And some of them will hint around it, like Nancy Culp from Beverly Hillbillies, and he's got all of them in there, all just brilliant actresses that I personally adore, because I love that genre, those eras of film and that era of television. But it's amazing because he's got like anyone that you kind of go, he's got in the book, and they will kind of hint. Barbara Stanwyck's in there because there were rumors about Barbara Stanwyck. But yeah, but it's fascinating because, you know, obviously so many of those women present and probably were, you know, gay, and this book kind of collects all of them. I wish I had the title. It might be.
It's got to be somewhere in here.
It is somewhere in here because I just read it last Pride. It was my Pride book last Pride, but I'll put it in the link.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a great read, but you almost feel bad for the women. Like he's pushing so hard throughout the interviews to get them to talk about being a lesbian, and this book came out in the early 70s, so they weren't ready to talk about it.
Still not like,
yeah,
doors open in a skosh.
Yeah.
Not so, like
I would have loved if he there's a nice overview of their careers, but I almost wish he would have like respected them more and kind of dove into that stuff, because now 30-40 years later, you know, that's information that would be amazing to have, you know, in-depth interviews with these women, you know. So but.
I have a question, Sarah.
Okay. What's up? I'm here to answer questions.
Because you are you definitely hit like open my eyes to a certain time in movies, which are usually in the past. Have you been seeing anything like new that has like, I don't know, like anything new that you're like, oh, this kind of has a flavor of what I like, or what I have liked, or the things that, you know, that made you excited as a kid, or are you seeing, like, I don't know, a lot of people have been saying, you know, that the quantity is up for horror movies, but the quality is down sometimes. Are we, I don't know. What do you like, are you seeing anything that is like current and new that you're like, oh, hell yeah, like I'm on board here?
Oh, like Midsommar?
Okay, all right. So
Midsommar was one where I was like, because it really, you know, one, it told you exactly what it was going to do, which I thought was fascinating. I was like, oh, because my kind of a parallel is, one of my least favorite Batman villains is the Riddler, because I just get annoyed because I'm like, he's just telling you what he's going to do. That's his power. Like he just tells you what he's gonna do. And so watching it, I went with two of my best friends, Ryan and JD, and we went and saw it in the theater. And I just wanted to see it. I didn't know what it was about. I just, had seen pictures. I was like, what the hell is this? And so watching it, what I really enjoyed was you could feel how men and women were reacting differently to it.
Okay.
Because the men in the theater were like, you could see them kind of like keep slunking back in their chairs. And I like, they were like, just went through like leaning in. Like there's that scene where, like by the end, like it was like, when they take the boyfriend and the bear and the temple and it all comes together of, what's happening. And, I remember that scene where Florence Pugh goes into that, like that little house with all the women when she sees that her boyfriend is having sex with that other woman.
Oh, and they're all like screaming together.
And like she's sobbing and they do like a call and response of her sobbing. I was like, this is horror movie aside. I was like, I would pay for that. I would pay to have that.
I would be in that group of women doing that together.
Doing that together. Like, I'm like, there are times I can look back on in my life and be like, I think my mental health would have been improved of 100%. Just like 30 minutes of that. Like, I have a friend from work who I walked into work like that Monday and I would not shut up about it. I was like, has anyone seen this movie? Like, I need to talk. So like we left and like JD kind of didn't want to talk about it. JD was like, oh, I don't know. Like there was like a weird like, and I'm like, guys, but what about this part? Like what about when they eat the pubes? Like just like anything. I just wanted to talk about it. I went in and you would have thought I found a new religion. Like I was like, guys, has anyone seen this? And so my friend from work, her sister was in town and she texted me. She was like, should my sister and I go see Midsummer? I was like, abso-fucking-lutely. And so she's like, okay, well, there's like an 11:30 show. We're going to go. I was like, awesome. Let me know what you think. And I wake up at like 2 a.m, just like, zzz, 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 zzz. And like, I look and there's like 10 texts on my phone and they're all, I hate you. I can't believe you made me watch this movie. Like you suck. But she was even like, she was like, it's just upsetting. And now I'll send her stuff like, I'll see like a Midsummer tattoo on Instagram. Like, we should get matching tattoos. She's like, no, stop it.
Get this.
We should get this. Do you want to get the little gold temple? We can get matching tattoos. It will be real cute.
Oh my gosh.
Like that call and response. She was like, it was just so, it told you what it was going to do. It was all in broad daylight. It ratcheted up the tension nicely. I guess if I had to think of a movie that I'm like, wow, horror is going in a really cool direction right now, that's definitely up there.
Awesome. That's cool. Brian, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, just I don't know if it's just being a gay man and it's hard to be faithful, and we're dumb. Guys are dumb. But I actually felt sorry for the boyfriend. I thought like, he was just a dumb college kid. He was going to break up with her. Then she has this tragedy happen. So he's trying to do the best he can. Like he probably should have broken up with her right away. Yeah. But he's a dumb college kid, who's horny and confused. And so he's trying to be a good guy. And like, so I actually like was kind of like, you know what? Is he a jerk? Kind of, yeah, but all guys are kind of jerks. All guys lead with their dicks. I lead with my dick. And, and he really did try. He was trying as best as he could for being like this kind of young dude who didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
I think in that regard, that was that was like the one part that I was like, Ari Aster, like you're really like he really like made it very obvious where he was like, this guy sucks.
Well, I think that what was good was they all kind of sucked.
Exactly.
Like she did. Like they were just like a group of shitty people. And just like watching them kind of like her just like watching that group consume them and then be like, you get to be the best of the worst of us.
Well, and I also hate that like, or no, I loved mostly that I hated in the beginning that Florence Pugh's character was basically seen as being bad because of her grief. Because of something completely outside of her control. Her whole family is dead. Mm-hmm. And they are acting like she's some kind of Debbie Downer. And I'm like, no.
Rachel Dratch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like, it was so like, it made me mad because I'm like, they're really just making her out to be this drag on their vacation. And it's not because she's a bad person. It's not because she's a dumbass. It's because she lost her whole family. And so then you watch these like other kids, like these other dumbass dudes walking around with all of these like legit flaws. Yeah. And I'm just watching them act like nothing is wrong with them, but there are. And then it just, in the end, everything was just laid so bare that suddenly it was like, not only were they idiots and ended up dying, but also she found a way through her grief. And that to me was like this magical, like, holy shit. That's like, so yeah. And so and it was really funny because I talked to a guy, when I talked to one of my friends when this movie came out, and we were talking about it because we both just couldn't stop talking about it. And he was like, oh, I didn't really read that scene of them all screaming in the house. I didn't see that. I didn't see them as being genuine. Like I didn't see the women as being genuine with her. And I'm like, what?
He thought they were just trying to lure her into their world.
Well, I think he thought like they were. Her? Yeah, he thought that it was like not necessarily like a. Like, yeah, he thought it was just basically like, oh, she's feeling this, we're feeling it too. Like, but like in a yeah, almost like in a mocking way. And I was like, no, that is not what I read. So when you said like, you know, kind of men and women reacting differently in the theater, that read was interesting to me to hear from a guy. And also like, I think sometimes I think men think, oh, no one would go there. No one would do that with a group of, but it's like, I don't know, like women are there is something. And I don't, again, gender is a construct, and I would like to preface by saying that, but there is something very interesting about the female experience and how we process things. And sometimes I feel like we are much more likely to want to get together and to want to feel each other's feelings. We don't really get the opportunity to do that a lot sometimes, mostly because of men keeping that away from us, keeping us apart, keeping us hating each other. Sorry. I'm going on a tangent, but like it was interesting to me that and he wasn't the only guy to say that, like to have that conversation with me. And I was like you, Sarah. I was like, that looks like therapy. Yeah. Like that like, doesn't look like
incredible. Like
that looks like I would pay money to do that.
Yes. I think that she was like rough in the beginning, in like before all the tragedy happened. Like I'm like, yeah, she's just kind of like a sucky girlfriend. And it's like, okay, but then this tragedy happens, right? And she finds this way through her grief. And it's that weird, like, I think it's also this like collective, this sounds like really like I'm listening to a lot of Grateful Dead, but like this collective, like, you know, when we talk about the female experience, there is that like, there are all these predetermined experiences that we all share. And so having that call and response is a like, someone hears it. Like, because you can hear it from somebody else, someone has heard it and is echoing it back to you. So you can even hear your own grief. Like sometimes you're grieving so hard you can't hear it. And there was a meme of that scene, and Florence Pugh said me, and then all the other women were labeled like Sylvia Plath. Virginia Woolf.
Oh,
ouch. But it is like, that was also like, yeah, like so much so that we seek it out.
Yeah. And that's why
we can.
Yeah, and that's why authors like that speak to us. You know, I think that's why a lot of artists in pain stick around with us, because you know, our grief recognizes other grief, and not like misery loves company, but like in the sense that like when we feel it all together, we find a way through it in a better way, I guess. I just think that there's for some odd reason, well, and also in the beginning of the film, when that guy failed to die after falling off that cliff, and he was like, I'm in pain, everybody was like, ah, like even the men, like everybody in the group were like, oh no, like somebody of us is suffering. And I think that was only there so that Florence Pugh part was going to be stronger. But yeah, they obviously are they were just a community so close that their pain, like everyone's pain was their pain. Like when that woman was going to have sex with that guy, all the women were having sex with that guy. So like there is something to say about, like, you know, community and I don't know, honesty and even letting your emotions be there too.
And like a sacredness to it, right? Because like there's also the two guys before him, because like all of those guys were just really like, they were set up to be like takers, right? They were just kind of takers.
Yeah.
And there was the guy who peed on the sacred tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy that they were like, no, like you can do your dissertation, but like you can't look at these like sacred texts. And he was like, cool, gonna break in and look at the texts, like, and
then also there was like a competition where they were like, I want to take your dissertation.
Oh yeah,
was that. They're like, I want to study that too, and they were just like, no, you don't. Like, yeah, lots of takers.
There was just a lot of takers, and I think that was an important point in it. Is just like, I don't know, I was having this conversation the other day with my girlfriend where it's just like, people just think everything is theirs. And it's just like, it's not like, not everything is yours, not everything is for you. You could just like sit and be a part of a community. Like not everything is there for you. And so I think that's what I liked about it too, was it just like this idea of also like the horror of taking, like the horror of just like someone coming in and completely disrespecting, and the backlash of it almost felt like a kind of, I don't know, like reverse slasher, where like the teens were like getting picked off one by one by this unseen entity, but like you didn't have the cool, like, I don't know, Jason slamming you in your sleeping bag against a tree and it rules.
Yeah, or even like, you know, everybody was in Midsommar, like people are picked off, but in the end it's like joy. Like, you know, in the end it's like, but we're happy. Like, it's kind of very silly. And also about the taking, I'm raising a toddler right now, and it is amazing to me that we all do it. Every single human being, it's like we don't understand ownership. Like, and so when we're toddlers, everything is ours.
Sure.
And so it's really fun to navigate that, but then also like be in a society where I'm like, everything is kind of yours, but also you got to share. You know, it's so weird. It's such a weird little dichotomy.
In a society where you have to share is also the society that allows Jade.
Well,
hand on the butt. Okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Fun navigating with you as part of our society, Sarah.
Thank you so much for being with us, Sarah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. I guess what moral of the story is, if you haven't seen Midsommar, go see it. If you haven't seen Mad God, run.
See it immediately. Get a Shudder account. Like a Shudder account is literally like $4.
And if you're in Salvation Army, look for a used copy of Jade.
Yeah, look for Jade. Look for, I saw it was on like Hulu or something. And I was like, man, I live in a state where like recreational weed is legal, and I don't even think there's enough for me to be like, you know what? Jade.
Jade. Oh no. Yeah. There are a lot of great movies to see. Hi. I don't know. I don't know if it'll do it.
I don't know. I don't know how much weed in the state of Illinois will get me through Jade.
I think we've just set up a challenge.
There it is.
Someone
Yeah.
listening
How much
is
weed
going
do
to
you...
try to figure out how much weed it takes to get through Jade.
Listen.
Sarah, do you have any things going on that you want to promote, or any just last words you'd like to share?
Last words. Oh my gosh.
Give us a list of biddy horror.
Actually,
required viewing.
Required viewing.
I have been.
We'll add links.
I've been doing a lot more reading. I've been trying to be like, damn, the pandemic really screwed up my ability to read books. And so I was like, you know what? If I can sit and look at my screen for hours and hours on end, then maybe an e-reader is for me. And it turns out it is. In a month, I've read 7 damn books.
All right.
Yeah.
This is great, because like me, I love an e-reader, but my husband is like, they're the devil, and I disagree.
I was once that way, and after moving into an apartment that was a little smaller and having to get rid of some books, I was like, you know what? This little baby can hold that. Slaps the top of the hood. This baby can hold 27,000 books. And so, two books I read recently that were really good. One is called All the White Spaces, and it's set shortly after World War II, and it's about a trans boy, well, a trans teen. He sneaks onto a ship going to Antarctica because that's where his brothers wanted to go, and they died in World War I. And there are forces that are keeping them from going to Antarctica that they keep fighting against and then have to escape.
Ooh.
And it's very good. And the other one is called Dead Silence. It's kind of a mixture of, it's got the vibe of Alien. Like, it's kind of got, like, the Alien I would say is its backbone. But it's also like The Shining and a skosh of Titanic. Not the love story, but like like a big fuck off luxury ship. Essentially, this salvage crew comes across this luxury spaceship that had long thought to have been lost, and decide, hey, we could go get stuff and get money off of this ship. So they go on this abandoned ship, and it's really good, because I was, at first I was like, oh, it's kind of the plot of Alien, blah blah, and I was like, oh, this is very good. It's really, I really recommend Dead Silence.
Great.
It's a quick read. I've been trying to read more horror. So yeah, those are the two I've read recently, because I've also been reading a lot of high fantasy. I don't know, summer's been weird. Like, just reading fantasy books. It's too hot.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, man.
But those two have been great. Yeah. Keep summer reading. I don't know how to do summer reading without a library rewarding me, but here we are.
Yeah, I was about to say, join Sarah's Book It Club.
Hey!
They meet at the one Pizza Hut that's still around.
Yeah, my mom tells me I was an absolute terror about Book It, so she's like, you were a monster.
She's like, a monster.
A monster. I guess we would sit at Pizza Hut. My brother, not a reader. Me, avid reader. We would sit at the Pizza Hut, and apparently I would be like, you don't have to pay for mine, but you have to pay for John's. Like, I would just sit and be an absolute, like, bad seed monster child, being like, did you see that I read all my books and John didn't? Like, it would get to the point where I read so much that, like, teachers would give me 2 bookets and I wouldn't share. Mom would be like, what if you both got a book? I'd be like, John didn't earn his. I earned mine. I was horrible.
Wow.
Everything else, fine. Book It, I was like, when Book It came around, I was like, oh God, no.
My God. Well, thank you so much for the reading. I wrote them down. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We will have you back all the time because you're great and I miss you. So there you go.